My name is Rebekah Feld, and this is my place in Canadian history. But before speaking about myself, we must reflect on the past and how my ancestors' tough decisions and strong perseverance have all led to my existence today and who I am as a person. My story begins with my great-grandmother, Rebekah. She was born in the year of 1905 in a small rural town known as Rebekah, now called Starahovice. Times were very tough, and her parents could not support her and her family. So at the age of 4, she was sent to live with another family who would feed and take care of her in return for her to work in their family business, wig making. She was also to marry her first cousin. This all changed 23 years later when a man named Max Rosenberg walked into their shop to get his mother's wig fixed. Max grew up and lived in a town about 22 minutes away called Ostrovich. Sparks flew between the two immediately, and after a year of quietly seeing each other, they wanted to take things more seriously. But there was one problem. Blima was supposed to marry someone else, and so the couple began to think about leaving their homeland. Also on their minds was the growing popularity of anti-Semitism in Europe, especially because both came from very Jewish families. With the recent depression in Poland, Max and Blima decided it was no longer where they belonged, and packed to leave for their new home, Toronto, Canada. They decided on Toronto because Blima's sister had already lived there, and her dad already owned property. This all made the application for immigration to Canada much easier, and so no other cities were considered. The couple had also heard many times that Canada was the golden land, and had seen propaganda on posters that depicted Canada as free, with wealth, job opportunities, and healthcare. So on November 20th, about a year after meeting, they got on a boat named Frederick VIII from Copenhagen to Halifax, which would take 10 days. Seen in this picture is the real recorded immigration of Rebekah. She is on the bottom line, recorded as Jewish, 26 years old, and bringing only $8 into the country. They made it to Canada on November 30th, 1928, and shortly following their arrival, the stock market crashed and the Depression hit Canada. Finding a job was hard, and Max ended up chopping ice for the city in the winter and collecting metal in the summer, while Blima continued creating wigs. The couple also had a tough time adapting to the culture in Canada and learning English. To save money during the Depression, Max walked to and from work to save the 10 cents it would cost. During the Depression, technology was also on the rise to allow Canadians to disconnect from the horrors during the Depression. Max and Blima invested in a radio, as well as buying their first truck in 1934. That same year was when my grandmother Shirley was born. She had a sister Florence and 2 brothers that would eventually join the family, Phil and Leah. In 1939, 5 years after Shirley's birth, things in Canada were starting to look better. The unemployment rate had gone down and Canada's economy was on the rise. With this, Max and Blima bought their first house. Things were starting to look positive for the Rosenbergs. This all changed on September 1st, 1939, the day that Germany invaded Poland and marked the start of the World War II. Out of all the historic events that would impact my family's history, none came close to the devastation of the Second World War. With both of their families' well-beings at risk back in Poland, my great-grandfather and great-grandmother would listen to the radio daily to check if their hometowns were still safe. The news was not good. By the end of the war, on Blima's side, 1 brother and 1 sister made it to Israel. 3 siblings and her parents were lost. On Max's side, only 1 sister made it to South America. It is unclear how. From a picture with his family before leaving, including 25 people, only 5 made it after the Holocaust. While this was occurring in Poland, Canada was not the safe, free country Blima and Max had been promised. Racist attitudes had begun against Jews in Canada, as well as the Rosenberg family felt discrimination from many places. Max found himself in fights against Nazi supporters, telling him he was a waste of space, and the family was not allowed in places that it had been to before, such as Cherry Beach in Scarborough and many stores. The end results of the war on my family were catastrophic, and will always impact us. There may never be closure from World War II, but the Rosenberg family continued on. 8 years after the end of the war, my grandmother Shirley married my grandfather, Simon Feld, at the age of 19. They proceeded to have 5 kids, one of them being my dad, Lauren Feld. My parents met in 1990 and married in August 1994. 2 years later, my sister Sophie was born on September 5th, 1996. 4 years after that, I was born on May 4th, 2000. Overall, my family has gone through countless sacrifices to ensure that I could be here today. I must appreciate my family's past to continue my future and mark my own important place in Canadian history.